Good morning and welcome back to the channel. I'm Dawn.
And I'm John, and together we're the two running grooms. So as the last few days of 2022 tick down, some of you may be thinking about New Year's resolutions and running resolutions in particular. So one of those resolutions might be to run every day in January, Red January I think it's called. But we're going to meet somebody today who's not just run every day in January and February and March, etc, etc, but has done so for over 7 years. So first question for Gareth, have you always been a sporty person?
Yeah, so as a kid, grew up as a footballer. If you come from Barnsley, you're either into football, rugby or cricket.
Yeah.
Mine was football. So up until 16, like playing football, Sunday league, and then Saturdays doing the same as well. Training probably 5 nights a week for different teams and stuff. And then got to college, can continue doing the same. Training Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, sometimes twice a day, and then playing football on a Wednesday, Saturday and Sunday. My habit of training and doing stuff every day came probably from college and from my football background, and it became a bit of a routine of getting up and doing something. So I probably developed into a natural born streaker.
Yeah.
Plus it gave me a little bit of a bonus because I could have 2 Sunday dinners. Have one at my mates and tell my mum on a Sunday, oh, I've not eaten, honest.
So how did that football interest gravitate into a running interest?
So as I got to 18, like I left college, started university, we kind of didn't have an opportunity to train every day. So like a Monday, instead of having football training, I was going out doing a 5-mile loop. Instead of training or doing S&C on a Thursday, I was going out and running some hills. More or less consumed by football to then being consumed by running. And I weren't doing it every day. To begin with, I were lazy. I were a bit like I enjoyed going out with the lads on a weekend, having a bit of a beer, as a normal teenager, 18-year-old lad would do.
So Gareth, what part did parkrun play in getting you into running and developing it more?
So when I first joined parkrun, it wasn't straight away. So like, I wish I did, because then I'd be able to see how far and how quickly I'd progressed. Yeah. It kind of built a bit of a community around you. So we've got Team Barnsley that's been born out of the runners from Barnsley, Locke Park. Built a bit of a community. It's got us to know each of us, and I've got to know people from different walks of life and different backgrounds through Locke Park and Barnsley Parkrun. As a kid, I've fallen off my bike so many times in Locke Park. I've pulled trees down, I've climbed like all over the place around here. I've painted the bandstand in later years. So like Locke Park to me, it's got a bit of a heritage, a bit of a background, and it's home. Post-COVID, I've gone out into a different park runs, but Locke Park's always home, and it's always where you feel comfortable and you've got your friends and everyone knows you, where everybody knows your name.
Cheers. So Gareth, I believe this is day number 2576 of your running streak. What on earth made you start running streaking?
Before I started this streak, I had a little bit of a mini streak that lasted, I think, for about 150 days.
Yeah.
Well, the day of the Barnsley 10K, the Sunday, 29th November 2015. And I was laid in bed, poorly, like throwing up, shaking, migraine, cold, sniffly. I could hear wind battering on my window. Vowed to myself that I'd never have a day off again. So historically, like a bit of an idol to me, Dr. Ron Hill. He ran for 52.5 years, I believe.
That's right.
And he, like, recently has passed away. But like his running streak, absolutely phenomenal. And he vowed to himself that he'd never have a day off again, because for him to be the best marathon runner in the world, he needed to practice every day. And I'm also a big believer that if you want to get good at something, you've got to practice it. And it's just like playing the guitar, playing the piano, learning a language, playing your games console. You've got to practice it and practice it and practice it. And it takes 10,000 hours to make a grandmaster at something. Practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect. I'm not a natural born runner, to be honest, but I've got a good tank and I'm more of a diesel engine where I could run the same pace forever. and that comes out of me going out, pounding the miles, getting them in, proper doing the grinding on the sessions, and just running constantly to make myself the best person that I can possibly be.
If you're finding this video interesting, please give it a like. If you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. We bring regular running, training, racing, parkrun and general content related to our great sport. So back to Gareth.
So Gareth, is there any rules to your run streak? What classes as a minimum run? And
Yeah, so my run streak, getting out a mile, so a mile minimum.
Okay.
So Street Runners International, their rule is 1 mile minimum. It's got to be unassisted, so it can't be like using some sort of robotic frame to assist you running. I've got a measured mile from my house, so I do know my 1 miles just in case my GPS messes up that day and I don't get a service or anything like that. But most days, for a run to actually count, I do try and go out and do 20 minutes minimum.
I was going to say, because when we've looked at many people who do run streaks. Some of them will just do, they're on low mileage, but your mileage is actually large. So it's not a run streak where you're just doing 20 miles a week. It's a big run streak, isn't it?
Yeah, so if I do post it on Street Runners International, people are quite impressed with my mileage.
Yeah.
So like some years I've gone through, I think I've done 6,800 miles in a year, like as my most, and I were at that stage, I think I peaked out at 170 mile a week, which I would never preach anyone to go out and do that, because it broke me. And it's about learning what my body can handle. And I had to go through that phase to learn what I can actually handle and where I can actually take myself. So 100 mile a weeks are quite natural. I could probably roll them out and get them done quite easy. There is some weeks where I do struggle to knock out 100, and that might just be time. It's never to do with fatigue or anything like that, it's mainly just time constraints.
Right.
But as long as I've got in 10, 11, 12 hours worth of running, and then everything else that comes on top of that with your S&C is a little bit of a bonus.
Do you find that when you come to do your races, do you feel that you run best or better then with that high mileage, or do you think at times you would run better if you reduced your mileage and didn't
I've experimented with both ways. So like if I'm doing a target race, I will taper into a marathon, and historically I didn't do that. So I've won Milton Keynes Marathon, for example, 2017. The day before I ran Warncliffe Crags leg 6 recce, 16 mile with Brian Harrod and Chris Barton, and like I remember it like it was yesterday. And I went out, there's a photo of me stood at top of Warncliffe Crags like this. I ran 2:40 in that marathon.
Right, okay.
2:40.09. Got a picture.
Yeah, 2:40.09. I didn't remember that. But yeah, that marathon in particular, I didn't taper whatsoever going into it. The month before, I ran, this is off my 170 mile weeks, I ran Manchester Marathon in 2:41, I believe. And I had my feet in an ice bucket the night before because my ankles were swollen. I'd done 150 miles that week to go into the marathon, and I were in absolute agony, but I still got round in my paper thin Adios boost and got through a marathon. I'd like to look back now and say I were in 2:22 shape, and in truth I probably were, but I weren't recovered and I didn't have enough freshness in my legs to get through the actual mileage at speed and at the speed that I wanted to do.
So you now found your sweet spot then of what works for you.
Yeah.
So that's right, your PB I believe is 2:25.02.
It were at York. So I did whole marathon in 2:31, I believe, that year, which is actually a course record, and they're never doing Hull Marathon again, it's been cancelled. So I've got the lifelong course record at Hull Marathon. Cock a Hull. So York Marathon, it were a month later, I did 2:25.02, which to be honest is a bit of a kick in teeth, but it's got that 02 over my name. And York Marathon, it's a love relationship there. I've done every York Marathon. The year that I broke my foot last year, like my ultimate aim, because I'd broke my foot possibly 3 times last year to be honest. I did it once in April, once in July, and then my ultimate one were in December when
And you ran with that?
I ran straight through it. Wouldn't ever preach that to anyone. The Alpha Flies, they cost 260 quid, but they're a saving grace. But going into York Marathon, I was fresh, I really tapered. I had a good training group around me. Like 2019, we're doing marathon sessions Tuesday, Thursdays. I was doing 120 mile a week at that point. Hopefully I've been in shape since, I think, to get that and to get quicker. But I'm going to end up being one of them runners. Do you know, I could have been a 220 marathon runner if it wasn't for COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the one that got away. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I'm not going to be like that. And next year I have an even better return to running.
So you mentioned there running a few times with a broken foot, I believe, 3 times in 1 year. Surely there must have been times during that running streak you thought, do you know what, this isn't worth it, I'm damaging myself?
Yeah, so there is times where you'll sit on your front doorstep or wherever you live, and you'll question why the hell you're going out for a run that day. Like, what are you doing to yourself? I'm quite proud of the fact that I ran 100 mile with COVID. Like, I have to say it to everyone. I've run through illnesses, sicknesses. Notoriously I get migraines, and migraines knock anyone sick. They definitely do with me. But I recover by 2 o'clock, and I'm out the door, like, ready to go and ready to take on the world. 2017, June 4th, I ran 73 mile around Barnsley with Phil Inchcliffe and Robin Clough that did it all with us. There were plenty more that joined in on the day, a little bit Forrest Gump-esque. The day after, my proudest achievement is going out, lacing up and running 5 mile. It were an 8-minute mile, it was slow and steady, it would be listening to my body, but I still got out there, got it done. Like, in the last couple of years, I've took a little bit to heart rate training. I'd like to say I'm quite an intelligent lad. So I've gone out, I've done my research, I've listened to other people, I've took advice of other people. I'm quite well connected in that way.
Yeah.
So heart rate zones, like, I've got my heart rate zones set, I'll update them regularly.
Yeah.
My easy runs, I spend most of my times in zone 1s and 2s.
Yeah.
Historically, I've probably spent more of my time in zone 3. Like, before I listened to heart rate training. And it makes me easy runs, and it makes my sessions then sharper. It makes me faster, so like, I can keep up with the lads that I'm training with in my little training group that realistically I didn't used to be able to keep up with. Our training group is all about that.
Yeah.
Like, we're pushing each other, and you find that extra 5-10% when you're training with someone, whether it's sprinting and hanging on to back at fast lad or being chased by its slowest.
Yeah.
You're all trying to just get quicker, and that banter that surrounds it and the team spirit and ethos and everything just makes everything great.
So you've mentioned the alpha flies and the vapor flies in terms of helping you maintain this running streak. What other factors help you keep going day after day in terms of nutrition, hydration, sleep, etc.?
Yeah, so just on alpha flies, vapor flies, for a very long time, up until 2019, I ran in Paperfin Adios Boost, and my streak started in 2015, so I don't swear by them. And realistically, I ran a 2:26.48 in Adios, and I only ran a minute quicker in vapors. So there isn't, for me, like, I probably benefited more off of the old style running shoes, the ones without carbon plates, the ones without super foams. I'm very much an old school runner when it comes to shoes. But in terms of other stuff, everyone that we train with and everyone around us, we're all amateur runners. We're not professionals. We're not doing it to get a paycheck or put food on the table. We're just doing it for fun. But it's just about doing the basics right. And if we do the basics right as amateur runners, we've probably nailed it. And going out and making sure you are actually running and you are actually doing specific stuff. Or are we going out and lifting heavy in the gym? What's the point in that? Like, we need to make sure that we are nailing the basics before we go out and do all the other marginal gains that we can try and achieve.
Do you do gym stuff?
Yeah, I do a little bit of S&C, where it's like, historically, it used to be heavy. Like, I've lifted heavy before, and I were a little bit bulkier when I first started running, and I were only a teenager. Like, if I'd have carried on in that trajectory, I'd have probably bulked up a lot more. But I wanted to be a runner, and I was very split. And I went to university with a lad that used to be a 1500 metre like sprinter, I call him. I said, you can't be a marathon runner, Gaz, and an heavy lifter. You can't be both. Decide what you want to be, and then you'll go down the right path.
So a couple of questions we have from our viewers out there. So what do you do before or after a longer race? I've tried streaks in the past, but difficult during taper and the day after a long race, especially in ultra.
So I've been done both long races, and I've tried a little bit of ultra running as well. When I was doing 170 mile a week, I was doing a 30 mile Monday, 30 mile Tuesday. I think I'm doing a 30 mile Sunday as well into that. And then my Wednesday were a marathon. Like, I were doing mad stuff. But it was just getting my body accustomed to that, and that's why I said earlier I had to go through that phase of my life to then learn about my body. But nowadays, like going into a peak marathon, so I did Berlin in September, and I did Yorkshire in October as well. I just had a couple of down days, but day before Berlin I just did 5k, and it was just nice and easy ticking through the mileage and keeping my streak going, but also making sure that my body recovered at the same time as well, and making sure that I felt fit, fresh and ready to fight.
So Gareth, this is from somebody called I Run Daily, and he says, have you ever gone to bed and dreamt that you've not run and woken up to look at your Strava?
No, I've not. So recently we went to Abu Dhabi on holiday. Naomi were doing World Triathlon Series. She qualified for it, she wore GB kit and all that sort of stuff. Great experience. But like before the run, before the flight, sorry, like I said to Naomi, for me to actually get a run in this day, because we were flying at 4 in the morning from Manchester, I said it's probably better for me to run before we even get on the plane.
Yeah.
So I ran round from Manchester Airport, we drove there, got there at like 2:30, 1:30 or something like that, and I ran round Manchester, like, and up and around the airport and everything, and into like one of the closest little villages, right, I can't remember what it's called, around Manchester Airport, and did a 7-mile run just to get me running that day. And it was a good job I did, because when we finally got to Abu Dhabi and finally got to the hotel, I think it was like 9 o'clock that night.
And nothing really stands in your way in completing what you've set yourself.
So I'm very stubborn. That's probably, it's either a downfall or a strength. I see it as a strength. So I'm very stubborn, so if I've got something in mind what I'm going to go out and do, I'll go out and do it.
Yeah.
If I know that I'm out on a run as well and it's hurting, like, back off a little bit. But yeah, you've got to have that little bit of stubbornness about you, and a little bit of like aggressiveness in your nature and in your training to go out and get stuff done. And running has always been there for me.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've used to get over stuff. I started running in 2013, stupidly entered a marathon because my nan passed away from cancer.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what other events there were, and I went out, entered Milton Keynes Marathon, ran it in 4 hours 4 minutes, and I stood on the finish line after, and I was like, I'm quicker than that. I went back, did Yorkshire Marathon in 2013, 3 hours 19, still knew I'm quicker than that. I'm still that little kid saying nowadays I'm quicker than that. I've run 2:25 at York, but I still finish, and I still said to myself I'm quicker than that.
So you still believe that you've got quicker in you than 2:25?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big believer that I've got at least a 2:19 in me.
Wow.
I just need to nail it right on the day. I might sit down in 10, 20, 50 years and say, do you know what, I never got that 2:19, but I could like put my life on it that I tried absolutely everything to get there.
Have you got any other runners out there that your inspiration, Gareth? Somebody that you look up to and think, you know, that's a runner I could be, I like to be?
I look for inspiration in everyone. So like I've got a really good training group, a good group around me, and I'll not mention names because in case I miss one off, to be honest. But there is a big group around us as well, and they're all local lads, they're all local people and lasses that have got the same goals. Everyone in the running world's got the same goal on the face of it, to make your seconds and your minutes smaller, and that's it. There'll be people that say they're not bothered about times, but deep down they probably are.
So Gareth, finally, any advice for anybody thinking about starting a run streak for 2023 and beyond?
Without me talking you out of it, start small, and then dream big. So go out, do a mile a day, keeps the doctor away. If you're having a day off at the minute, like, can you just run a mile on that day? And in truth, you probably can. There'll be a lot of elite athletes that don't preach streaks, but then there's a lot of elite athletes that, whilst they're training for a marathon block, will not have a day off, but then they'll preach having 2 months off after.
Gareth, it's been great talking to you and walking around Locke Park, which you have completed, I think, as you said, 990 laps of in your park runs. So thanks for joining the channel, and best of luck for 2023 and beyond.
Right.
Look forward to seeing that 2:19.
Yeah, I do as well.